Alright, so electronics are done. What we're going to do now is actually make our battery bay floor. Pretty simple to do this, just got to kind of lay it out in a certain way. So what I grabbed is like an old piece of kind of like credit card material. So that's what I'm going to use for the bay floor. The reason I add these is just to give it a little extra rigidity for the battery. Otherwise you're relying on laminate alone to hold the battery. Unless you left some foam in the bottom, then it would work. But this battery was pretty much the thickness of the airfoil, so I cut all the way through, and then what we're going to do is just add this. We're going to add this battery bay cover. So all you do for these, I'm going to probably cut this into a different shape actually. You got to kind of overlap it on your, so you got your hole here, you kind of got to overlap it all the way around the hole. So I'm just gonna trace out the bottom here. I might chop off quite a bit of this just to kind of get it in line with the spar back. There we go. Yeah, looks pretty good. So that's kind of what it's gonna look like. That way, that's what it kind of looks like. I'm gonna line up with the top of the spars like that. So now we can kind of cut our little indentations. So with this, kind of got to cut sideways. So we'll cut our perimeter real thin. We're just taking off like a fraction of an inch here. It's just very little material we got to peel back just so this thing sits flush. So yeah, you lay your knife flat like this, and then you work away around the whole thing where you cut. And then the nice part is once you get it done, you'll kind of see how it all just pops up out of there. Because I already cut my perimeter, it just peels up out of there nice. Looking pretty good. So yeah, once you get this thing kind of setting in there nice, setting in there pretty level, then you just glue it in place. Grab some of your goop, glue it in. Alright, got our goop here, so we're gonna goop this baby in. Nice light bead all the way around. Push it into the foam. Like that. Close that out. We'll throw it in. Goop squeezing out, that's good. Alright. There's our bay floor. Alright, we're ready to laminate now. Now that our bottom of battery tray is done, we're going to cut out some laminate. So I kind of got it laid out like this. I'm going to cut it into 4 sections, so that way you got bottom, bottom, top, and top. And we'll cut this out here. Just do all 4 here. Try to get them all the same. Now that your laminate's cut out, make sure you cut it out as even as you can. I mean, you can kind of turn it in whichever way you got to do just to get it covered. But here we go. That's like that. Yeah, so you want to lay it out in a fashion that it's pretty evenly covered on everything. I overlap the middle just slightly, just so you can get a little bit of doubling up in the middle, which is nice. Probably overlap quite a bit just because I got a little extra here. Might as well, right? Yeah, let's get laminating. I gotta heat up my iron and we'll get going. Iron is hot. Let's get this going. So I have it set for 230 degrees right now. We're gonna see how that works. I haven't used this thinner lam yet, so my cord's a little short, so this will be interesting. Let's get a little closer here. So you usually want to start in the middle, and you'll notice it just starts to melt real nice right onto the foam. It'll become translucent. Right now it's like a hazy white. I know there's a lot of different ways to lam things, but this is like putting on just a big old giant sticker. Always start in the middle and work your air bubbles out. Okay? But don't hold this iron on in one spot for too long. Otherwise you can potentially melt the laminate or burn it. You don't want to do that. But yeah, just work everything out until it's nice and smooth. Here, I'll kind of show you what it looks like once you start getting it lammed in. Kind of notice the difference in color. So you notice it's starting to get lammed in those spots. It's the adhesive's activating, and it's getting attached to the foam. So it'll go right up to the very edges here. Get up to that trailing edge. Don't go to the elevon though. Okay, so there's a step for that coming up here. I'll show you kind of how to navigate through that. But yeah, just work your iron in, get up to these edges, and then I'll show you how to do the elevon hinge with this laminate. Because we did the goop hinge, but we're also going to do a hinge for the with the laminate. Make sure we get this guy over here all figured out. You don't got to go all the way to that. You don't want to touch the foam, because if you touch the foam, it actually melts and it gets right on your iron. It makes it hard to. You got to clean your iron off. It makes it hard to laminate over it because it almost gives it a sticky feel. So yep, go right to the very edge of the leading edge as well. And then we'll show you some tricks for that too to kind of get it wrapped around smoothly. So we got our wing lammed. We got it laminated there. So what we got to do is we got to fold this back. And then what we're going to do here, try to get this up and out of the way. What we're going to do here is we're going to actually bring the laminate up. Might have to cut it a couple times here. Let me grab my knife or my scissors. Because you're going to be wrapping around this edge. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut the laminate right here, roughly. That way I can wrap this around this elevon. So I'm going to give it a cut right at this corner here. That way we can work with it. Right now it's going to be hard to wrap if you didn't do that. Now I can actually bend this up. We can cut off some of this too, because we're not going to wrap it all the way around the front. We're only going to wrap it up to about just past the spar. So I'm going to cut off some of this just to get it out of the way. Kind of like, yeah, there we go. It don't need to be perfect either, guys, because once you start wrapping this on the top, you're not even going to notice this seam anymore, because this stuff is so thin, it's going to melt together really nice. Okay, so now fold your elevon back like this, hold it, and then you're going to wrap this. You're going to wrap this nice and tight. Try to hold it with your other hand. See, now we got it nice and tight on the edge there. So then you take your iron, you start working that trailing edge in. That's the first thing you want to work in. You can do it right here too if you want. Don't matter. We'll just do it all. But I'm not going to focus on that spot too much. We're focusing mostly on the elevon and this trailing edge. We want it nice and tight. Because if you don't, you can leave some gap in the material and your hinge might not work how you want it to. Alright, so now we got our trailing edge lammed. Looks like I could go a little harder on this edge here. There we go. And sometimes you got to apply a little more pressure to get that heat to really sink into the foam. The foam's pretty porous. And then you just pull this back. And now you created your hinge. Right under this. So what you need to do now is pull this back up, and then you're going to land the bottom of your elevon. So while holding the elevon with like a finger up on it, just to keep everything tight, you want to pull it, work in the middle, and then work your way out. So I could go a little bit more on this edge here. That's the thing with this wood, it doesn't stick the best with laminate. So you want to make sure you're getting good heat on this and activating the adhesive. And make sure you're not don't induce wrinkles in it. Take your time. And there it is. We got us a lammed hinge. You make sure you got some down travel. We still got about the same amount of down travel as we had when we first started. But naturally this is going to want to curl up now just because there's lamb on it. But when we put this top layer on, it'll lay right back down. Just a little bit. I'm just going to leave a little bit at the back there. With this, I'm going to try to fold this up and try to lam it. It's a little difficult because you don't want to get glue. You don't want to get glue on the iron because I sprayed a little 3M90 on this. But we'll just get this back edge here. And then I can fold it over and then just use the tip of the iron to try to get it in place. We got that baby wrapped up on there, and then what you got to do now is it kind of sucks, but you got to kind of cut some of this stuff out. Cut relief cuts and all of this stuff. Makes it a lot easier to wrap this stuff when you're coming to the edge. So you got a hard point up here, you're going to have to cut a relief cut in order for you to wrap it. So I mean, it's out on the edge anyways, but so now I can wrap it because I made that relief cut. You know, you'll end up doing it quite a bit, but you'll figure out a good method that works for you. I'm going to cut off some of this extra here because I don't need all of it. And you can wrap some of this right up inside the wing as well. See, now we can get an edge right there. We can wrap that up in there. And then we can go up inside the motor, but I'm going to try to leave this exposed just so I can get some glue in there for the motor mount. It'll stick really nice. So for this one, I'm just going to try to cut most of this out. And then we'll get to that later. So for the next part, we'll just finish up this leading edge here. Kind of work it out, just like it, you know, right from the middle. And then work it over. That's kind of how I roll. I just roll it over real nice. Roll the iron right over that edge. That way you're not going to leave yourself a gap or any sort of wrinkles. You're getting constant heat right all the way to the front there. So there it is, guys. There's one side basically ready to go. I guess there's just a couple more spots to touch up here, but I think you guys got the gist of it. We can put you on hyper speed for the next parts. If you have any questions, let me know, but I'm gonna do a speed time lapse through the rest of this one. So we're all lammed up. Pretty much got everything cut out how I want. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but like the main thing is it just added a ton of strength by putting laminate on this thing. Last thing I gotta do is just trim off these edges. Just use your knife, cut them flush, because the next step we'll end up gluing our winglets on. So stay tuned for the next set of videos coming up here. We're gonna mount all of our electronics next, and I'll show you how to install control rods and linkages. So stay tuned.